Welcome to this short video on human-centered leadership. I'm so happy that you've taken the trouble to listen to a few minutes on this very important subject. So I wanted to start off with, what is human-centered leadership? Well, actually, it's a combination of things, and leaders have developed over the years, haven't they? From the early 1900s, when it was all about the great man theory, through to the 60s, when we were talking about behavioural models and behavioural leadership, through into the early 1990s when we had transformational leadership, and then I guess we moved into authentic leadership before we've moved into, in a post-COVID world, this new approach which is very much human-centered leadership. And what does that really mean? Well, it's more than a combination of the rest, because what it's about is the whole person. It's about the head, the heart and the hands. And it's how you lead using all those different competencies that we have as a human. What is it like to be really human in a leadership space? Are we safe to lead others? Have we done things about ourselves to help us be in a good place, to be the go-to person, the supporter, the advocate, all the other good things that leaders should do? So leadership is changing, and I think this is the way forward. This is where we are really all heading. It's also a bit of an antidote to AI. So if we've got AI coming around the corner, what do we need to do? We don't need to compete with our AI. We need to actually be the best that we can be as humans. Also, I'd like to just bear in mind why it's important now. A lot of people are talking about the world being on fire, quite literally, but also metaphorically. The stresses and strains that we have in the world, how people find themselves on high alert, the mental health crisis, the well-being emphasis, all these things. They make a different approach to leadership really important. Coming out of COVID, I believe we've actually needed to renegotiate a new social contract in the workplace. And in actual fact, if we have a different approach to work, we need to have a different way that we're leading people in the workplace. And a lot of the studies are actually backing up that. There was a Harvard Business Review article in 2024 which talks about how important human-centered leadership is going to be when we're going through such vast transformation and change. And I really subscribe to that. I really believe in that. There was also some more research done in 2022 by Gartner, and they actually did some comparison about what human-centered leadership would do for people as opposed to other sorts of leadership, and all the metrics came out. 3 times more likely to be high performing, 3 times more likely to stay in their job, 3 times more likely to have high energy and be working harder. So all those things are research based and showing us that this different approach is really the way to go. And what does that actually mean for people? How can they become human-centered leaders? Well, for me, actually, it all starts with self. So the leader themselves needs to have really thought very carefully about what their narratives are, how they show up in the world, how they show up to be a leader, what impact they're having. And that's going much deeper than our normal assessments. We use a whole range of assessments tools, and they're great and they go so far. But this is actually going a little bit deeper. It's almost going into the world where you're actually looking back at your whole narrative that has taken you to where you are. What are the triggers? What are the things that make you the essence, the person that you are? And I think to be a human-centered leader, you need to shine up those really good things that we all have, and make them the best they can be. There's 6 competencies which really run alongside becoming a human-centered leader, and these are the ones that I'm going to leave you with to be thinking about. The first one is cognitive, and an awful lot of leaders have this anyway. So we show up in the world in a very cognitive place. We try and think our way out of a problem. We actually always go to, what does the mind say? But actually it's more than that. Human-centered takes it a bit further. We need to think then a bit, the second competency is a bit more about the emotional space. So what's our emotional intelligence like? How do we work with others? How do we understand their emotional needs and all those things? Thinking about how their emotional needs work in with other people's emotional needs. So it's very multifaceted when we think about emotional competency. The third competency is all around the relational space. And in actual fact, that's really deep. how do we make relationships with people? Who do we like? How do we manage people when we find they're difficult to work with? What do we do with all of that? What sort of conversation do we turn up in with these people? So the relationship place is actually a really important place to spend some time on as the third competency. But the fourth competency, I think, is very neglected, and that's the somatic phase. So to be a really good human-centered leader, we need to think about what our body is telling us, but what our body is telling others. How much time do we think about the somatics? It's more than just body language. It's actually all the signals that we're giving off, multifaceted, and reading the signals of others, but also being in a well-being space with our bodies. Actually, do we like our bodies? Are we able to make them be powerful? Are we able to quieten them down? All those sorts of things. So I think somatic space is hugely important and something which leaders really need to be thinking about. And then we have maybe the spiritual space or the community space. It could be rolled into one. What's our purpose? What's our goal? What do we believe in? What do we want to do for others, which are bigger than our organisation? And that's a really important competency. And then the final one is integration. How do we integrate all those 5 other competencies to make them all work together? So to be a truly effective human-centred leader, we need to think about all those 6 competencies. So thank you so much for listening to me. If you want to find out more, or if you want to continue the conversation, please track me down on our website, www.passe-Partout.com, or drop me an email. I would be delighted to hear more from you. Thank you.